Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this public hearing to order. Roll call, please, Ms. Carrera.
Mr. Schuster,
Present.
Mr. McAndrew,
Present.
Dr. Rothchild,
Here.
Mr. Donahue,
Here.
Mr. Gaughan.
Here, Mr. Voldenberg.
The purpose of said public hearing is to hear testimony and discuss the following. Resolution number 159, 2021, accepting the recommendation of the Historical Architecture Review Board and denying the certificate of appropriateness for Joyce Outdoor Advertising, 317 Poplar Street, 2B, Scranton, PA, 18509, for the modification of signage at 539 Linden Street, Scranton, PA, 18503.
Thank you. At this time, would someone please make a motion to accept public comment?
Make a motion to accept public comment.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to accept public comment for resolution number 159, 2021. Mr. Voldenberg, were there any comments received for this public hearing?
Councilman Gaughan, there was no public comment received related to this resolution.
Very good. Thank you. On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved. Okay, at this point, I'd like to ask anyone who is offering testimony, and that would be Mr. Kevin Joyce, who's here with us tonight, to please raise their right hand and be sworn in by the stenographer, Maria McCool.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Joyce, can you just identify yourself, first and last name, just spell it out for the stenographer, and then your business affiliation as well?
Sure. Yeah, my name is Kevin Joyce, K-E-V-I-N, Joyce, J-O-Y-C-E, and I'm the owner of Joyce Outdoor Advertising in Scranton.
Okay, thank you. So we are here today to conduct this public hearing regarding the application for appropriateness, which was submitted by the City of Scranton's Historical Architecture Review Board by Joyce Outdoor Advertising. Specifically, the application in question requested authorization to modify signage at 539 Linden Street in downtown Scranton. By way of procedural history, Joyce Outdoor Advertising presented the application on March 11, 2021, and that application was denied. The mayor's administration has prepared a resolution which accepts the recommendation of HARB with regard to the application's denial. Pursuant to the city code, City Council has notified Joyce Outdoor Advertising that HARB's denial of the application will be reviewed at tonight's public hearing. Joyce Outdoor Advertising has been directed to be prepared to offer evidence and testimonies in support of the application. And Mr. Joyce, you're now authorized to proceed and offer your testimony.
Thank you. And if anyone has problems hearing me, please just let me know. Thank you, everyone, for the time tonight. And like Mr. Gaughan just said, this is a modification application. And to frame a little bit of history on the building known as Shealy's Drugstore on Linden Street in Scranton, that building has had signage, specifically billboards on it, since at least the 1950s. There's photographic, evidence that was admitted into the record for the HARB hearing. At that time, Adams Ave was going in the other direction, so the signage was on what is now the rear of the building. And after that change in traffic flow, the signage was then moved to Linden Street, and a number of sign companies over the years have operated billboards or a billboard at that location. That being said, in the longevity of the history with outdoor advertising on that property in that specific area, it's obviously fitting, and it's part of what I think the landscape of a downtown. And the application comes as an operational issue for us. So some may or may not be aware that the upper levels of Shealy's Drugstore is a halfway house. So it's operated by the Department of Corrections. And each and every time we had to get into that building to access the sign, some people may realize or may have noticed that the same advertiser for several years has had the same ad up there, and it's actually starting to look dated and faded because accessing the sign has started from a small bump in the road, and obviously with COVID evolved into a problematic issue for us operationally. Like I said, accessing the building is tough. Getting into the building to get to the roof, which is where we start with installation of the sign, poses challenges, safety challenges. When we go in, it's difficult to bring certain tools and certain items into the building so we can access the roof and change the sign. That being said, I express that to the HARB. It's very difficult to sell an ad on a sign that you have so many challenges to change. The other challenges are, and we've had the sign for maybe 4 years or more, and we've looked at and explored in pretty good detail every option out there prior to applying for digital, which would take away all these challenges. Another challenge was using a bucket truck, parking on the sidewalk, and go above to access the wall, which previous sign companies had done in the past. However, the city has a history of problems with the vaults caving in the city. Now, specifically, we know Sheely's Drugstore has remedied their vault situation because they are our landlord and we've been in the basement, we've accessed all of that. However, there is no level of comfort to park a bucket on anyone else's sidewalks, especially not knowing what is under there. So there's that risk in using a bucket truck on a sidewalk to access the sign. The other option was perhaps using a crane from Linden Street, and the utility lines that run up and down Linden Street pose a problem because you go from using a standard size crane. Now you need what they would call an articulating crane, which actually has an elbow in it. So you have to go up and then over. So now you have a massive crane in Linden Street, which would require a street closure. And to HARP's credit, they said, well, streets are closed all the time, but I don't think that's efficient. Not many advertisers can afford to pay for a crane to change their ad, especially around here. 99% of our business is local advertisers. You know, we don't get a lot of big national stuff around here like Coke or Pepsi, so a little bit, but not much to justify that, and as well as the disruption it would cause the downtown and changing the street, or excuse me, changing the ad and closing the street because of that. So I understand that the streets are closed for events, the Fall Fest or Race for the Cure or St. Patrick's Day, but to change a sign, which could happen on a monthly basis. We do have advertisers who change their ad on a static sign every month. That's kind of the point of a billboard. So that's really not an option, not only from the cost perspective, but again, logistically closing down the street. So that brought us to how do we overcome all of these things on one of our assets, all of these hurdles, and that would be converting it to a digital. So the only time we do have to go up there would be to troubleshoot any technical issues. I have 5 digital signs, and I've been on some of them more than others, but we're a good way into 2021, and I haven't been up on any yet this year. Obviously, I think I would rather do that a couple times a year if we had to access the sign on Sheely's Drugstore if it were digital. I'm very good friends with some of the owners of the Backyard Ale House, actually all of them. And I expressed this years ago when they knew I was having problems. And I never went for the application because I was fearful of what they would think or what their feedback was. And I've had quite a few conversations with Patrick Nasser, one of the owners. Pat was in my wedding. He's one of my good friends. And he said, Kevin, we have no problem with it. We don't think it would be intrusive in any way. We understand the business. We're in a downtown. We know things come with that, and we honestly don't see it as an issue. So he actually said it might be a positive for us because then we can advertise in real time some of the events once things get back to normal. So that's the long and the short of it. It's really mostly an operational and logistical problem for us, and this would be a solution. So I'm prepared to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Mr. Joyce. Does anyone on council have any questions?
I have a couple. So will the modification impact the existing structure at all? No, we submitted structural plans for the sign permit itself to Mr. King, stamped, signed, engineer drawings.
Essentially, in layman's terms, it'll be 2 I-beams into the building supporting the sign. Every year they get lighter and lighter, which is a good thing. So again, he went through that, did the study, did the work, and we submitted the drawings accordingly with the application.
Okay. So in terms of size, how would you compare to what you're proposing to what's currently there now?
When the application on its face, to avoid any changing any nonconformity or grandfather status of the sign, we put it in as the size it is, but we were planning on eventually doing something smaller. I think a digital that size in the downtown isn't appropriate, and I expressed that to the HARB. Currently, the 672 square feet, pretty much the same as you would see on a highway billboard, which they call a bulletin. I don't think that's necessary for this. We would put a smaller sign and we would actually have it a little bit lower onto the wall. So for example, in the city outside of the interstate or the expressway, you're allowed 300 square feet. We were thinking something along those lines. It's a standard size. It's a good size. Advertisers are used to using it. So we would go from 672 to 300. That's a pretty substantial shift from the size that it's at now.
All right. And there are lights, if I remember correctly, there are lights on the current billboards, correct?
Correct. Yeah, we use LED lighting fixtures, 200 watt lighting fixtures. They have 2 fixtures within each lamp, and those are comparable to maybe a street light in terms of brightness.
Okay. So just in terms of the level of brightness on the proposed change compared to what's currently there, do you have any idea of what that is?
Yeah, I have an idea. So my manufacturer, where we buy the sign from, gave me the cliff notes, so to speak, because a lot of it is engineering and technical. But what he said is light is measured in candles, lumens and candles and things like this. And he said a digital produces 0.3 feet of candles at night, which are pointing downward as opposed to upward. He said, so as a result, there's less light pollution from a digital from a lighting fixture. He said, so digital billboards are designed not to go above 0.3 candles of ambient light. So what he said to me is, to put that into perspective, a street light gives off 1 foot candle. So they're technically 3 times brighter than a digital, which is why a street light has a halo or a glowing effect around it. Whereas if you were standing behind a digital billboard, a newer one, I should specify, or at least from this manufacturer, there's a lot of different types you can buy. There wouldn't be ambient light. You wouldn't be seeing this halo effect from behind it, from the side. It would be almost, how television's evolved over the years.
All right. That's all I have for right now.
Thank you, Councilman Donahue. Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Joyce?
Yeah, is the current board illuminated at night?
It is, yeah. It has 200 watt, what they call a double brick. It has 2 fixtures within the light housing itself, and that is illuminated, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I was going to ask some illumination questions. Kyle handled those. Any thoughts on illumination and some of the neighbors other than the backyard ale house? Have you had any complaints in the past from the
No.
current?
No, we've never had complaints from the current sign. I'm trying to think in terms of no, we've never had anything. It went up downtown. I think everyone has been accustomed to it because, like I said, there's been signage on that particular property since the 50s. So it's part of the landscape, I would think, in terms of to the people down there who are working there. Yeah, that's all I got.
All right, thank you.
I was wondering if there are other signs that your company has been transitioning from billboard to electronic.
We haven't transitioned. All the electronic ones we built were built from the ground up as electronic. Clark Summit, Dunmore. We have one on 81 at the edge of Scranton and Music that was built as a digital. There's one on the border of Scranton and Dixon City. By Best Buy and Staples on Viewmont Drive there. That was built as a digital. So we haven't converted any existing, what they call static, to a digital.
Would you say that this is more of a trend that that the company is going towards with an increase in electronic signage, or?
It's tough to say in terms of a trend because my industry is pretty consolidated. It's like the phone business. There's 3 major players that control almost all of it. So they usually set the trends. But in terms of if I see a spot that we think would be worthy of the investment in digital, because it's a small business, we go borrow the money. We have to make sure it makes sense. So we usually build it digital from the ground up. But this was a bit of an outlier because of the logistical and operational issues we have.
Okay, because I think one of the concerns from Harv was that this would set a precedence for an increase in electronic signage downtown.
Yeah.
And so
absolutely. I recall that. I do understand their concern. Obviously, everybody does. I live in the city, and believe it or not, I believe in certain aesthetics too, which is why years ago I didn't want to, when I spoke to Patrick and his partners there at the Backyard Ale House, certain things before the problems had snowballed, so to speak. But I was trying to explain to Harv that they're really, you can't set a precedent. They have deference to say, but they really can't set a legal precedent on opposing or denying one application to another. That's for the Court of Appeals. Just because they approve one doesn't mean they have to approve another. It's similar to a zoning. Just if you go to the zoning hearing board and you get a permit to put a fence too close to your neighbor's property line, doesn't mean every single person in town could do it. It's a case by case application basis. And that's really all I have to say in terms of a precedent. That's all a legal battle. So I can't, plus there's not really much signage downtown. You would think with all the gentrification, I guess, in the downtown and more people moving downtown, you would think there would be more signage, but the city has a cap on that. So in terms of that proliferating, I couldn't see that, no.
okay, thank you. I appreciate your response.
Well, my next question in that line is with the other players in the area, when it comes to billboards, is there any other, and I know each of the companies know where each of the other companies' signs are located at. To your best knowledge, do you know of any other companies that have signs in Courthouse Square or nearby Courthouse Square?
Nearby Courthouse Square? Well, yeah, there's some on Mulberry Street, which is right on the other side of Linden. And then when you go across to Spruce, technically at the top of Spruce and Jefferson, there's a digital sign up there, and that's been there longer than my lifetime. And then when you go around to Lackawanna, there's a sign, Buona Pizza. There's signs coming into town on Mulberry Street, both sides, up by specifically.
Yeah, that's what I'm, as for that precedent that we're talking about, if there's other signage there on Courthouse Square that would flip over to digital. But the closest digital that is the one, I'd say on top of Cardo Jeweler there on Spruce.
That, or I couldn't tell you the exact distance, or the one on the parking garage across from the firehouse.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. All right, Mr. Joyce, thank you very much for your testimony tonight.
Thank you.
That concludes the testimony. If there is no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
Motion to adjourn.
Public hearing is adjourned. Adjourned. Thanks, everyone. Okay, now we're into our regular caucus. First order of business tonight, I want to welcome Frank Voldenberg, who is our new city clerk. He was appointed this week and sworn in by Magistrate Corbett. So Frank, welcome, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Council President Gaughan and council members. I appreciate the opportunity and the appointment. I look forward to working with you all.
Yeah, looking forward to it, Frank. Thank you. So a couple things before we get into the agenda. The biggest item tonight that I wanted to bring up is the mayor. I don't know if she issued the release yet, but I know that the governor has issued a statement that Memorial Day weekend, the state is lifting some of the restrictions that were in place because of the pandemic. So we decided today that Tuesday, June 1st would make the most sense, since those restrictions were being lifted, for us to get back into in-person meetings in council chambers. One of the only restrictions that is not being lifted is the masks. So masks will still be required. And then we'll just, let everybody know and put our heads together on any other safety protocols that should be put into place as we move forward. So over the next 2 weeks before we get back in, we'll make everyone aware of that. But as of today, Tuesday, June 1st, we will be back in council chambers. Public comment, all that will be just like it was, if we can remember what it was like before the pandemic. It's been quite some time, but looking forward to that, to getting back into the normal course of business. Second thing, I just want to run through the agenda really quick. So 5B is an ordinance where the mayor is extending the term of service for the members of the Human Relations Commission from 3 to 5 years. And the reasoning that is stated in the legislation is because of training. So does anybody have any comments or questions on that piece of legislation?
I believe there's several other commissions that have a 5-year term. Am I correct? I think that's typical of boards and commissions that the city has.
I think there are some, I can't remember off the top of my head, to be honest with you. The zoning board, what is the zoning board? I think is four-year term. I can't remember the other ones, if there's another 5-year one. You could be right. I don't know off the top of my head.
Is there also some boards that kind of fluctuate between 2 and 4-year terms?
The ethics board is the only one that comes to mind that is kind of.
But that's just initially on the ethics board until you get in a rotation. Then they're all
3-year terms, I think.
Yeah.
So does anybody have any questions on or comments on 5B?
Just to throw it out there, I mean, I kind of feel that the term should be, within the term of the person appointing. So, I mean, I could see a 4-year term. 5 is stretching it somewhat, but just to get it into the conversation.
I think it actually might be helpful to have a little bit of an overlap, because then that commission is still operating with its full members until the next, if there's a next mayor, that would then make their own appointments.
Okay. Anybody else?
I mean, I didn't see any. I mean, the thing is, it's being suggested for financial purposes, correct? With training. And I don't know what. Do we have any kind of idea on what the cost is?
Doesn't say in the legislation.
Yeah, I think that would be that was one of the questions I had to maybe ask the administration to see if they had any kind of estimated costs for that.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. 5C is an ordinance authorizing the mayor and the city to enter into an agreement with the Department of Environmental Protection, the Bureau of Abandoned Mine Reclamation, and that's to accept a donation of a piece of property at 1517 Euclid Ave. It can't be used for anything else, my understanding, other than green space. So this is a benefit to the city. This has been a long process that they've been going through. The home was demolished, and now they're giving it over to the city. Any questions on that or comments?
I mean, my only comment on that is just to make sure that we, properly maintain that piece of property. I know, we've talked about it before about having that issue with when the city takes on certain properties, we don't properly, maintain them then in the long run.
My question with that one was liability. Now the city would be liable for that property if anything were to happen. I mean, right now it's currently, I don't know, 6 to 8 foot pile of dirt with, I think, grass planted over it with the fence around it. I don't know if we know what it's going to look like in a few years, if that mound of dirt is going to sink and become flat or level. I don't know do we have any idea what that property is going to look like in the near future?
Hold on, let me grab my magic ball and see. No, I don't know. Okay. No, the city, it's my understanding and looking at the agreement that the city will be responsible for maintaining the property. So they'll have to go out and cut the grass and take care of it. But, you know, it's just a green space. I don't know
Yeah.
what.
I guess what I'm saying is it is literally a pile of dirt with grass seed planted on top of it. I'm not even sure. I would imagine it's grass seed that's planted on it. It was in the early spring when and recently that I saw it. But with projects such as this, I don't know if that mound is going to continue to stay a mound or if it's going to eventually level off. Right now, running a grass cutter over this mound of dirt isn't going to be, I mean, that's not going to be the proper tool to maintain it. It just seems, you know, we're going to take on liability and maintenance of something. Now, if it's going to turn into a flat space, I mean, that would be more worthwhile.
Okay. We could pose that question to the administration.
And I'm saying the mine reclamation should have some kind of idea where it's going or why they, you know, put the mound that high, et cetera.
Okay. Anybody else?
Just to Councilman Donahue's point, I'm wondering how we are tracking those properties and how often they go out for the lawn cutting, and if it's on a schedule, because I think that would be most helpful in keeping up with the properties. I'm not sure if any other council members are aware of how they're doing that, but that might be another question for us to pose to the administration or to DPW.
Okay. Yep, good question. Anybody else? Okay, very good. 5D is just a anonymous donation in the amount of $15,000 for the K-9 officer. And it includes the total cost of police service for the K-9 and the K-9 handler school. So it was, that was very good. 5E, reappointment of Pedro Inez to the Human Relations Commission. And then 5F was a resolution dedicating the 1800 block of Rosen Court in honor of Master Sergeant Walter Pasiak. And I know there's a ceremony on Saturday that we're all aware of to honor him and to dedicate the 1800 block. So that rounds out fifth order. Any other questions or comments there? Okay. Nothing in sixth order and seventh order. You know, we've already gone through all of that. 7B is the HARB recommendation. So Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're in favor of the HARB's denial, you'll vote yes. If you are not in favor, you'll vote no, correct?
That's correct. You'll write
Okay.
yes to approve the resolution if you want to deny the application of appropriateness. If you think that the HARB was erroneous, made an erroneous decision in denying the application, then you would vote against the resolution. A no vote allows the billboard to go digital.
Okay, I'm going to be voting in favor of the HARB's application or denial on this one. Mr. Joyce, I appreciated him coming tonight and giving testimony, but I do think that as HARB stated in their letter, the aesthetics and the characteristics of the downtown are very important, and I'm just worried about the potential negative impact of a digital billboard there. So I'll be voting yes to uphold the denial.
Kevin, just a quick question on that. So do we simply have to just vote it up or down, or could we, you know, if we wanted to say we wanted to put restrictions on the brightness of it or the size of it, like, are we able to do that, or is it strictly just an up or down that had to be done beforehand?
It had to be done beforehand. So if he wants to resubmit an application and go through the process again, we're like the appeal court here, in that the trial level court is the HARB. Now an appeals come up to us, we have to go based on the record that we have. So if there was if they wanted to modify the application, they could do that and resubmit it to HARB. And then if HARB denies it, then it would come before us again.
Okay. Because I think that's, you know, one of the things I'm struggling with. I mean, if there wasn't a billboard currently there, I would be 100% be against it. but it's just the fact that it is there and it is, emitting light and, so it's, and at the same time, this is sort of just a natural progression of how these, advertisements have moved along, and it's just more of a modern form of it. So I really, I don't know if anyone else has any opinions on it, but I'm sort of stuck on that. Like, if it wasn't there already, I would definitely be against it, but it's the fact that it is there and it is already. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm kind of in the same boat as you. When I'm looking at the HARB standards for reviews, and we're seeing like, the general historic and architectural nature of the landmark. I think out of those 6 standards of reviews, I think HARB was correct with 4, 5, and 6. Am I wrong, Kevin?
Well, it's a discretionary. It's discretionary to them. They apply those standards and make a determination as to whether or not it violates those standards. So they have those 6 standards. It's really a subjective criteria whether or not the HARB determined what that the application and the proposed sign was consistent with those standards.
My concern is, first of all, how high is this new sign going to be, and how distractive is it going to be on that busy intersection? Because when it's digital, so I think it's a little more distractive. It's my only concern. Safety.
I believe he said too that the size would be smaller than what they put in for the application. So I don't know if they would need to reapply with the smaller size that they're proposing. I'm not sure why they didn't include that in the initial application. Because that could have been a factor in what HARB was considering.
The application says that it's going to replace the existing 12 by 24 static advertising sign with a digital sign of the same size. That's what the application says. I know the testimony was different, but so it's at least going to be 28 feet high and 24 feet wide.
Yeah, when looking at that info, it was saying it was the same size. I know he said a little bit different, but that was the application.
Yeah, I noticed that difference too, and that's why I was wondering if there's restrictions you could put on, but if that just has to be reapplied, then that's just the way it needs to, they would have to go about doing that then, for it to be brought up for consideration again. But I noticed that too, and I mean, 300 square foot is definitely, different than 670 plus square feet. So.
Okay. Anything else on 7B? Okay. Anything else on the other seventh order items? Okay. Very good. The only thing I have, just a general order of business, is does anyone have an update on the PennDOT Orem Street traffic light? I know that's on the table. I know we're not prepared to bring it back tonight, but.
So we're still waiting for that redesign to come back from PennDOT.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Okay, Kevin, do you have anything?
No, I just was looking, and I'll get more information on this, but the issue of the terms was just raised. I know the Planning Commission is 4 years, the Shade Tree Commission is 5 years, the Board of Examiners is 4 years, the Police Pension Commission is 5 years. I'll put together, just so you guys have a broad understanding of the terms of the various commissions. I know that's not up for a final vote tonight. I don't have anything else to report at this time.
Okay. Frank, I know today's your second day on the job. Did you have anything? Frank, are you there?
Nothing to add so far, Councilman Gaughan. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, we'll go around the room here. We have 9 minutes left into our regular meeting. Mark, do you have anything tonight for the good of the order?
Nothing for the caucus out front, maybe, yes.
Okay. Dr. Rothchild, anything?
Yes, the piece that we tabled last week, the gun safety organization sign on that we received some more information on from the mayor's office. So I was wondering when we'd be bringing that back. That would probably be next week then.
Yeah, I just somehow that got lost. I know you forwarded that to me today, and it somehow got lost in the shuffle. So I haven't had a chance to take a look at the information. But once I do, yeah, I'd be okay with an up or down vote on it.
And with that one, Kevin was reaching out to district attorney, possibly. Kevin, I know I did speak with the police chief about it.
Okay.
To get their take on it.
I didn't get any feedback on that as of yet.
Anyone else on that?
So with that, I'd just like to get their input on it before we move forward.
Okay.
I'm fine with bringing it back. I was satisfied with the information provided.
Okay. All right. Very good. Tom, do you have anything?
No, that's it.
Kyle, anything?
Just one thing I did bring up. We did get a response from Carl Dealey regarding IT support for council. So for our Granicus, we should, and I'll forward this along to everybody, but we need to reach out to Granicus ourselves, and he did provide our account manager with Granicus. But then for hardware, email, and general issues, we need to reach out to the city help desk. So I just wanted to keep everybody informed on that one, and I'll forward this information to everybody else too.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we'll take a 7-minute recess here, and we'll be back at 6:30 for our regular meeting. Thanks, everyone. I'd like to call this public meeting of Scranton City Council Tuesday, May 4th, 2021 to order. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world, for those who have passed away recently in our city, especially Sam Vitris, former DPW employee and union president who served the city and his fellow employees honorably for over 40 years. Mr. Vitris was hired June 26, 1980. DPW workers often don't get recognized enough for the dangerous and often difficult job that they have to do. And Sam Vitris performed his duties honorably. He fought on behalf of the employees in the DPW for years, and our prayers go out to him and his family. This is a big loss, not only for the DPW, but it's a big loss for the city of Scranton. We also want to have a moment of silence again for all of the people in our community, in our country, and around the world who are suffering because of this pandemic. Let us continue to pray for the doctors, nurses, researchers, and all medical professionals who seek to heal and help those affected and who put themselves at risk in the process. May they have protection and peace. Thank you. Roll call, please, Ms. Carrera.
Mr. Schuster,
Present.
Mr. McAndrew,
Present.
Dr. Rothchild,
Here.
Mr. Donahue,
Here.
Mr. Gaughan.
Here. Mr. Volenberg, please dispense with the reading of the minutes.
Third order, 3A, minutes of the Ethics Board meeting held March 17th, 2021. 3B, correspondence sent to Mayor Paige G. Cognetti, dated April 23rd, 2021, regarding list of current employees and vacancies. 3C, response received from the business administrator, dated April 25th, 2021, regarding council's IT department questions. 3D, single tax office, city funds distributed comparison report, 2020 to 2021, year to date, April 30th, 2021.
Thank you. Are there any comments on any of the third order items? If not, received and filed. Do any council members have any announcements at this time?
I do. West Side lost another great guy, Sammy Vitris. This news I heard this morning was devastating. It seemed like only yesterday he retired, and we all realize that. My heart, thoughts, and prayers go out to his family and his wife, Judy. Secondly, I would also like to wish my colleagues at the Career Technology Center and all the wonderful teachers out there a happy Teachers Appreciation Week. And lastly, well, we all know what Sunday is. If you don't know what Sunday is, you're going to be in trouble. I would like to wish all of the mothers and those that take the role as a mother a very happy Mother's Day. Without forgetting, Jess, your first year as a mother, and Kyle, your wife, Mary Kate's first year as a mother, and my beautiful daughter, Mariah's first year as a mother. Happy Mother's Day to you guys. And at my house, it rains Skittles on Mother's Day. There's big dinners, parades, but hang in there, boys. Father's Day is right around the corner. That's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I would just, my thoughts and prayers go out to, Sammy's wife, Judy, his kids, and the rest of his family, and the DPW as a whole. It was, terrible hearing that news this morning. On another note, the Recreation Authority is holding a butterfly playground run, 5K run, and 1 mile fun walk to benefit the installation of a special needs playground in Naog Park, and that will be held on May 22nd at 9 a.m. So help them out to make sure all the children and adults with special needs can enjoy, their time with family and friends at the park. You could sign up by going to runsignup.com/butterfly run, or you can make a monetary donation on Venmo at Naog Park, all one word, or a check made out to the Scranton Municipal Recreation Authority. And I'd also like to wish Mark a happy Teachers Appreciation Week.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, I'd also like to extend my condolences to the Vitris family, to his children, to his father, and to his wife, Judy, as well as extend a happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. And another day to also celebrate is May 6th for Nurses Appreciation Day.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, I wanted to remind everyone that tomorrow, or this week, is the start of Observe Scranton Week in the city. So there are a lot of events, things going on. If you go to the website, observescranton.org, there's plenty of information on there. So it's a great opportunity to learn about Jane Jacobs and what she stood for, and to participate in some of the events. I also wanted to give my condolences to the family and friends of Sammy Vitris. I'm very sorry to hear of his passing. I also wanted to mention someone else who passed a week ago. She was actually a neighbor. She lived a few houses down from me, Beverly Coyne. She was 81 years old, but she was the secretary to former Mayor James J. Ross, and then she was a clerk to District Justice Eugene Cadden, and she also was married to a retired fire captain of our Scranton Fire Department. So, definitely a great loss to the Coyne family. I wanted to give my condolences to them as well.
Thank you. Earlier today, Governor Wolf announced that his administration is lifting the COVID-19 mitigation orders for masking, except for masking, at 12:10 a.m. on Monday, May 31st. So council will resume in-person meetings in council chambers starting on Tuesday, June 1st, 2021. Masks will still be required. We will have further details on any safety protocols for the in-person meetings in the next few weeks. As I mentioned in the caucus tonight, we do have a new city clerk, which I want to welcome, Frank Voldenberg. Frank took over on yesterday and was sworn in by Judge Magistrate Corbett. So anyone who is going to submit public comment for the next 3 weeks, because we'll be doing the Zoom meetings for the next 3 weeks in May, you can send your comments to Frank's email. His email is fvoldenberg, VOLDENBERG, scrantonpa.gov. And that goes until Tuesday at 3 p.m., the day of the meeting at 3 p.m. That's the cutoff. And then if you want to mail your comments in, of course, as always, send them to 340 North Washington Avenue, attention City Clerk, second floor, 18503. And that's all I have. Mr. Voldenberg?
Fourth order, citizens' participation.
At this time, would someone please make a motion to accept public comment from the following individuals: Patricia Nestor, John White, Joseph Healy, Norma Jeffries, Marie Schumacher, and Charlie Spano.
I make a motion to accept public comment.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to accept public comment. Mr. Voldenberg, would you please read the comments into the record at this time?
The first submission is from Ms. Patricia Nestor and reads as follows. I would like to know what authority Chrissy Manuel from United Neighborhood Center has over city property. She never ran for public office nor has been elected by taxpayers. On what authority does her and UNC get to decide the fate of the Caucus pool or paint hideous murals in our neighborhood? If she wants to make decisions regarding public parks, she should run for office. Once again, nonprofits have more say in the city than the taxpayer. Penn Ridge is a pool, not a splash pad. On Friday, April 30th, 2021, Mayor Cognetti stated the Caucus pool is set for demolition. When did you as council vote on that? When did you discuss it? Why is the fate of city property in the hands of a nonprofit? The United Neighborhood Center should not be making decisions that the representatives of the taxpayers should. UNC is making decisions based on the goals of their financial backers, not the taxpayers. The taxpayers built that pool with the intention of keeping it as a pool. It's a shame city government let it become a mess through lack of care and maintenance. That doesn't give nonprofits the right to take over. Who ordered the demolition of Caucus pool without your authority? The second submission is from Mr. John White and reads as follows. City Council, I'm writing today to gain your attention to an ongoing health issue in our neighborhoods. The dust, dirt, and other debris from PGW making cuts for the road for gas lines. We can't keep our neighborhoods clean. Every landfill truck that goes by our homes kicks up more choking grime, and many trucks travel Wheeler Avenue every day. Among other issues in nuisance we have in our neighborhood, the very serious health issues of asthma, COPD, and more. Here are some cheap and effective things that can be helpful in remedying this city-wide issue. Enlist our fire department to power hose right behind the utility vehicles. Agree with university, hospital, or other nonprofit to do the same. Contract with Mr. DeNaples to do the same. Encourage neighborhood citizens to organize and hose down the fronts of their homes regularly. Future Scranton Times article, quote, Scranton voted one of the cleanest cities in US, unquote. Encourage neighborhood citizens to organize and pick up their hoses and hose their properties regularly. If I haven't been successful in relaying the severity of this situation, please feel free to join me with coffee tomorrow morning or anytime in the 500 block of Wheeler and breathe for yourself. Wear your mask. Thank you. The third submission is from Mr. Joseph Healy and reads as follows. I was very encouraged to learn that Scranton had joined with the city of Lancaster and Delaware and Montgomery counties in an amicus brief that backs the Philadelphia ceasefire PA lawsuit. At last week's meeting, it was a bit unclear, though, if a resolution to become a member of the Pennsylvania Gun Safety Alliance was in order to join the amicus brief, or if this was a separate measure taken. Councilman Schuster hit the nail on the head when he said, quote, council is starting to get into things that are out of the jurisdiction of a municipality, unquote, because that is the exact point of the entire lawsuit. The state should be enacting common sense, uniform laws from border to border to protect Pennsylvanians. But since the Republican-held Congress simply will not do this, it is absurd that cities within the state, besides Philadelphia, are unable to enact safety measures on their own and must sit and wait for their citizens to be victimized. Many citizens were extremely concerned about the safety of poll workers and voters during the 2020 elections, and how right they were to be so. And when I asked council if they could at least enact bare minimum safety measures like prohibiting firearms within so many feet of polling stations, I was kindly informed by Attorney Hayes that the city's hands were in fact tied because we are not a Class 1A city and therefore are prohibited from enacting any such common sense safety measures. If joining the Pennsylvania Gun Safety Alliance or any other organization that can help facilitate the city's power to protect its citizens, then I would strongly urge you to do so. Issue number 2. Could anyone please explain the sudden change in parking patterns for the residents of St. Anne Street? Was parallel parking always the law there? Did some legislation recently change this? Or was it simply never enforced in the past? The 4th submission is from Ms. Norma Jeffries. The letter states, regarding street sign project. Over the last 4 years, I have been given the opportunity to discuss my concern on the condition of the street signs in Scranton. At that time, in 2017, I was a new resident of Scranton and was constantly either late for appointments or lost in the city because of the lack of street signs. The condition of the street signs throughout the city became a passion of mine. City Council was gracious enough to listen to my concerns, and as I asked for updates on the project. Whenever I requested an update, it was always freely given. The last update, I was told that a grant was being requested for the funds. Therefore, it was with great excitement when I was told that a grant had been secured for the replacement of the street signs in the entire city of Scranton. What a gift to the residents and visitors to Scranton. I want to take this opportunity to put a stamp of done on my letters and say thank you to City Council. Thank you, Mayor Cognetti, Marty Flynn, and Kyle Mullins for assisting in securing the grant for the Scranton street signs. I look forward to seeing the new signs in place in the near future. Again, I say, wow, 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 for a job well done. The 5th submission is from Ms. Marie Schumacher and reads as follows. First, I want to give a shout out to our city forester, Tony Santoli. The wind gusts we had last week could have caused havoc if Tony hadn't been marking dangerous trees for trimming or removal over 2 decades without receiving a penny from the taxpayers. About a decade or so ago, Tony campaigned to place trees in front of homes if the homeowners were willing. Thanks to his efforts, we have streets with beautiful trees. Some have flowers in the spring, while the leaves of others provide vivid colors in the fall. Whichever, they add beauty while cleaning the air. Next, I would like to welcome City Clerk Frank Foldenberg. As reported by the Times Tribune, Astro Wealth Advisors will be moving to Clark's Green. While the owner spoke well of Scranton, he also mentioned some negatives, and I wonder if any member of council had or has scheduled a debrief, which might help in the effort to bring business to the city. Mr. Gaughan will probably be the only member of council who remembers the December 2015 release of the Chamber of Commerce Community Revitalization Plan that it hoped would secure the top prize in the America's Best Communities competition and provide vision and unity to guide redevelopment of downtown Scranton. I am asking that the chamber be invited to council to report the outcome of this 5-year effort. I believe it was 2018 when council authorized a 10-year LERTA with the expectation 10 years downstream there would be a substantial property increase. The missing element was a definition of substantial. I am asking council to ask the administration to begin using expectation metrics when a new program is sent to council for approval and report regularly on those metrics if approved. While on the LERTA topic, I would like to report that I saw a new, what I consider bait and switch billboard. This one went Make Scranton your home office. Pay zero taxes for 10 years. Mr. Gaughan, you know LRTA only applies to the increase in improvements made. I do not know why the city allows such misinformation on billboards. Finally, I have never known a responsible organization developing a new system without maintaining the current system until the new system is perfected. The city's website is an embarrassment. It is a beautiful skeleton, but there is no meat on the bones. You can find nothing. This has got to be corrected. The sixth submission is from Mr. Charlie Spano and reads as follows. I would like to thank the council, the mayor, and the great employees at DPW for your assistance in this effort to honor and remember Walter Paysack. He was a real hero and a great example of an honorable good man. Thank you. See you at noon, May 8th at 416 Breck Street. And that ends the public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Voldenberg. Okay, on the question for the public comment.
On the question, first off, in terms of Mrs. Jeffries, I just want to thank her for her strong and consistent advocacy on the street sign issue. Back when I was new to council about 3 years ago, I don't know if it was right before or right after I got on, I can't remember, but I know that when she first brought this up, I know Councilman Gaughan inquired with then business administrator Dave Bolzoni, who reported back to council that there was a need for an up-to-date assessment and list of signs throughout the city in order to even apply for these grants. So, back in September of 18, we, unanimously approved a contract for the company to perform that assessment. So I just want to say, so in addition to the current administration and State Representative Flynn and Mullins, I also think that Councilman Gaughan and Mr. Bolzoni should also be recognized and thanked for spearheading the legwork that was necessary to get us to this point. And then also on Ms. Schumacher's comments, I also saw those billboards and I had the same thought. So Mr. Voldenberg, would we be able to reach out to the Chamber of Commerce regarding those billboards to see exactly what they mean by those? Because I know the LRTA isn't 100% tax-free. And that's all I have on that.
Yes, Councilman Gaughan, I will do that.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else on the question?
I'd like to speak to Mr. Healy's issue 2, inquiring about the sudden change in parking patterns for residents on St. Anne Street. So about a couple of months ago, we started getting a couple warnings. It was on Facebook that, parallel parking will no longer be allowed. And it's been allowed for my 58 years that I have lived here. So I dug a little deeper and found out that some residents were complaining about the parking. And then I also received residents on the other side saying, why are we no longer being able to park with the widest street in the city? So my understanding is there was never legislation on the books that allowed for us to park for angle parking. So in order to do so, I requested a study be done, a traffic study, to see if in essence, we're actually able to do it and have that approved. So that's where we're at with that. That's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone else on the question? Just want to address a few items that came up in the public comment. So first, I want to thank all 6 of those individuals who submitted public comment. As I mentioned earlier in the meeting, we will get back to in-person meetings on June 1st. So, this obviously has not been the most ideal situation conducting a public meeting like this. It's worked for the circumstances with the pandemic, but again, we are going to get back in the chambers on June 1st. Ms. Nestor's comments about the United Neighborhood Centers and Chris Emanuel. So there's no great conspiracy theory that's going on here between UNC and the city. The United Neighborhood Centers has been a huge benefit to the city of Scranton, huge benefit. Just in terms of what they did in conjunction with the city and other entities on Cedar Avenue in South Scranton, there's been a major revitalization there. we're hopefully going to see the same thing happen in Pine Brook, which is desperately, desperately needed. So again, I know the term nonprofit has a negative connotation sometimes, but there are nonprofits who do very good work in the United Neighborhood Centers, and Chris Emanuel do a wonderful, wonderful job. In terms of Kapow's Pool, council would not have any control over the mayor's decision to demolish the pool. I know that there has not been a final determination on what exactly is going to go there. I know that the initial conversations were that they did want to put some sort of recreation there, which I'm in favor of. But that decision has not been made yet. And Ms. Nestor's comments that the city property is in the hands of a nonprofit is not true. The city still retains control over that property. So I hope that clears that up. We'll send Mr. White's comments to the administration about Wheeler Avenue and some of the issues that he brought up, which I think were very good. As to Mr. Healy's comments, I think I can answer at least one of his questions about the Pennsylvania Gun Safety Alliance. His question was, did that have anything to do with the city joining that the lawsuit with the city of Lancaster and Delaware, Montgomery counties? No, those were two separate things. So the resolution on our agenda last week, which was tabled, was completely separate from the lawsuit that the administration entered, which council did not have a vote on or anything to do with. So the mayor was able to make that decision on her own without council's approval. So I hope that answers that. I want to thank Ms. Jeffries for her comments and for her activism on that issue of street signs. Ms. Jeffries always comes to council with good questions and good ideas to help the city. And we saw the fruits of her labor come to fruition, which was nice. And then Ms. Schumacher's comments, Councilman Donahue addressed one of them. We'll try to get some answers for her on some of the questions that were posed. And I would agree with her on her comment about Tony Santoli, the city forester. He's been a great asset to the city over the last few years, and he does it for free. He does it as a volunteer. He does not get paid for that position. And that's all I have. Anyone else on the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved. Mr. Voldenberg?
Fifth order, 5A motions.
Thank you. Councilman Schuster, any motions or comments?
No, nothing at this time.
Thank you. Councilman McAndrew, any motions or comments?
I have nothing at this time. Thanks.
Dr. Rothchild, any motions or comments?
No motions or comments tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Donahue, any motions or comments?
I'd just like to welcome Mr. Voldenberg and wish him the best of luck in his new position. The city's paving program started. Some of the streets have been paved already. I know two of the worst sections in the city, I think, besides Boulevard Avenue, were the Wintermantle stretch from Beach Street or Birch Street to the dead end. And that has been paved. And another one that was like it really was like a roller coaster going down was the 18, 19, and 2000 blocks of South Webster Avenue. And that's been prepped to pave. I think, that those really are beneficial because those were two of the worst stretches in the city. Also, the Kaiser Valley stormwater and flood mitigation study has officially begun. We approved that contract about a month or two ago. But just a reminder, this is a necessary first step to begin to address the flooding issues the residents of the Kaiser Valley have been dealing with. So that has gotten underway. And one of the requests I have for the administration, maybe we could I guess we'll send it to Business Administrator Carl Deely. But Mr. Vogenberg, could you just request an update on the downtown kiosk project? I know that we got a lot of information before the pandemic regarding that, and I think they even set up places where they were going to go, but I don't think we've heard anything since then. So, but that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yes,
Councilman.
I'll
Donahue.
take care of that, Councilman Donahue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a couple things. Ms. Schumacher had asked a question a week or two ago about the RACB grant for City Hall, for renovations to City Hall. Eileen Cipriani responded today that the city did apply again for the RACB grant in the most recent round that closed March 31st, 2021. The city applied for 1.8 million, and she's hopeful that they are announcing the awards by the end of May. So we should hopefully know something by the end of May, which is a good thing. I had two citizens' complaints. One was a dangerous tree on Drinker Place in Greenridge. A neighbor had called me about it, so I did send that over to DPW, and they are going to investigate that. And then there's a building in Hilltop in the Scranton Housing Complex. I've gotten complaints about this over the years, and it's nonstop. Loud, vulgar music and a bunch of other things. So the neighbors up there are very upset about it. So Mr. Gold, we've done this before, but if we can send another letter to the Scranton Housing Authority and the Scranton Police Department, just making them aware. The police department is aware, and so is the Housing Authority, but for whatever reason, there's still issues up there. So if we could just let them know that we're starting to get complaints again, that would be good. And then my last comment, I just want to thank our county commissioners and their chief of staff, Brian Jeffers, on the unbelievable job they've done with their efforts to vaccinate Lackawanna County. We are one of the leaders in the state of Pennsylvania in getting our people vaccinated. So I just wanted to say what an amazing effort and an amazing job to all of those people involved, specifically to the commissioners and the chief of staff for putting that together. I know it was not an easy effort to undertake, but they did a really good job. So it was very helpful. And that's all I have. Mr. Vollenberg.
5B for introduction, an ordinance amending file of the council number 69, 2016, an ordinance entitled amending file of the council number 21, 2011, an ordinance amending file of the council number 243, 2003, entitled adopting a comprehensive human relations commission ordinance for the city of Scranton regarding employment, housing, real estate, and public accommodation, including procedures for redress of violations in order to be certified as substantially equivalent to the Fair Housing Act, as amended in 1988, 42 USC section 3601 et set, and to be compliant with recommended best practices from the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission, to extend the terms of service for members of the Human Relations Commissions from 3 years to 5 years.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question?
On the question, the justification for the change here is financial. So my only question would be if we could get what the legal expenses would be associated with this training.
Okay, anyone else on the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
5C for introduction, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials of the city of Scranton to enter into an agreement with the Department of Environmental Protection by the Department of Environmental Protection Bureau of Abandoned Mine Reclamation to accept the donation transfer of 1517 Euclid Avenue, Scranton, Pennsylvania.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5C be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question?
On the question, I'd just like a little bit more information on this one as well. I think we need to look in what the city's liability is and if this property is deemed safe and where the Department of Environmental Protection and the Mine Commission feel this would be in the next few years.
Anyone else on the question? Just from reading the agreement, I think they're deeming it safe because they've stabilized satisfactorily stabilized the shaft, which was finished with the mound of dirt and then secured with the perimeter fence. So I think that from just reading the agreement, that is part of the securing the property. But if you want to double check on that, you can. But I think that was the mitigation effort to make sure that it was safe.
Yeah, I think maybe specifically if the mound of dirt is going to subside, and then if the fence would be removed at any point in time.
Yeah, you can check, but I think the fence went up to make sure that, obviously no kids or anyone gets hurt and plays on the mound of dirt. And I believe the mound of dirt is there to fill in the subsidence. I could be wrong on that, but I think that is the reason for it. We can double check on that. Anyone else on the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
5D for introduction, a resolution accepting an anonymous donation in the amount of $15,500 provided to the city of Scranton in the form of a K-9 officer, which includes the total cost of police service K-9 and K-9 handler school.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5D be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
5E for introduction, a resolution, reappointment of Pedro Anes, 555 Seymour Avenue, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18505, to serve as a member of the Human Relations Commission Board effective March 26, 2021, for a 5-year term that will expire on March 26, 2026. The original term of Mr. Anes expired on September 16, 2018, and was held over. The start date for his new term begins on March 26, 2021.
Sorry, I jumped the gun on that one. At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5E be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
5F for introduction, a resolution ceremoniously dedicating the 1800 block of Rosen Court in honor of Master Sergeant Walter A. Asiak.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5F be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? On the question, this is a great honor for this gentleman who served in the Korean War, and I'm very glad to see this come across our desk, and I'll be voting yes, obviously. Anyone else on the question?
I agree on the question. I was very impressed by his service to our country, and I think it's certainly deserving to dedicate this tree to him.
Thank you. Anyone else? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
Sixth order, 6A, no business at this time. Seventh order, 7A, for consideration by the Committee on Finance for adoption, file of the council number 67, 2021, creating and establishing special city account number 02.229641 entitled Harry and Jeanette Weinberg Foundation Weston Field Grant for the receipt and disbursement of capital grant funds from the Harry and Jeanette Weinberg Foundation, Inc.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Finance?
As chairperson for the Committee on Finance, I recommend final passage for item 7A.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew,
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild,
Yes.
Mr. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Gaughan.
Yes, I hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
7B for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for adoption. Resolution number 159, 2021, accepting the recommendation of the Historical Architecture Review Board and denying the certificate of appropriateness for Joyce Outdoor Advertising, 317 Poplar Street, 2B, Scranton, PA, 18509, for the modification of signage at 539 Linden Street, Scranton, PA, 18503.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Community Development?
As chair for the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7B.
Second.
On the question? On the question, I just want to say that a yes vote on this resolution affirms Harb's denial of the digital billboard, and a no vote on the resolution reverses Harb's decision and would be deemed a vote of support for the digital billboard. I'm going to be voting yes for this piece of legislation. I do agree with Harb's explanation for their denial. I do think that the modification of this signage would actually detract from the historic nature of the downtown, and it's really not consistent with the historic nature of the downtown. So I'll be voting yes. Anyone else on the question? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew,
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild,
Yes.
Mr. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Gaughan.
Yes, I hereby declare item 7B legally and lawfully adopted.
7C for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for adoption. Resolution number 161, 2021. Authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to apply for and execute a grant for the Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program through the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's Office of the Budget in the amount of $1,500,000. Accepting and dispersing the grant if the application is successful, and coordinate the use of the grant funds with the University of Scranton at 301 Jefferson Avenue, Scranton, for the project to be named Engineering Program Facilities Project.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Community Development?
As chair of the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7C.
Second.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew,
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild,
Yes.
Mr. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Gaughan.
Yes, I hereby declare item 7C legally and lawfully adopted.
7D for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for adoption. Resolution number 162, 2021. Authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to apply for and execute a grant through the Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program through the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's Office of the Budget in the amount of $1 million, accepting and dispersing the grant if the application is successful, and coordinate the use of the grant funds with Slocum Hollow Properties, LLC, for the project to be named the 517 Bogart Project.
Thank you. What's the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Community Development?
As chair for the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7D.
Second.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew,
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild,
Yes.
Mr. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Gaughan.
Yes, I hereby declare item 7D legally and lawfully adopted.
7E for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for adoption. Resolution number 163, 2021, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to apply for and execute a grant for the Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program through the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's Office of the Budget in the amount of $3 million, accepting and dispersing the grant if the application is successful, and coordinate the use of the grant funds with City of Scranton School District for the project to be named the Emergency Building Capital Improvement Project.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Community Development?
As chair of the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7E.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew,
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild,
Yes.
Mr. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Gaughan.
Yes, I hereby declare item 7E legally and lawfully adopted.
7F, for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for adoption, resolution number 164, 2021, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials for the city of Scranton to execute and enter into an agreement with Smart Recycling Company, Inc., to perform demolition work within the city.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Community Development?
As chair of the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7F.
Second.
On the question?
On the question, I was happy to see that Lackawanna County Court upheld today the demolition of two Ken Bond properties that are on this list. They've been, needed to be torn down for a while now, and I'm happy that they can proceed with that.
Also on the question, I did get a complaint from a resident in the Sweatland area of West Scranton about two properties on Sweatland Street, and those two properties were included in this list of demolition. So that resident was happy to see that they would be included in the demolition project.
Anyone else on the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew,
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild,
Yes.
Mr. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Gaughan.
Yes, I hereby declare item 7F legally and lawfully adopted.
8th order, old business, nothing at this time.
If there is no further business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe. We'll see everybody next week. Thank you.